Welcome to Amplifying Leadership, a place where we talk with guests on their leadership journeys and hear about what they think is key to becoming a great leader. My name is Tara Lehman, and I am a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is a division. For our leadership clients, we love to support you through this podcast and various other leadership growth services. To learn more about Amplifying Leadership and our community, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming DeLinda Forsythe, a retired CEO and a storyteller known for her ability to shatter intergenerational barriers and transform the corporate workspace into one that inspires employee engagement and allows businesses to flourish. She was also named in the fall the San Diego Businesswoman of the Year for her lifetime achievement. Congratulations on that, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Tara. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and excited to share my story with you.
Great. Well, why don't we start, as I do with most of my episodes, to learn a little bit more about you and your leadership journey.
That sounds great. Well, I started in the office furniture industry in 1987. I was a single mother. I had a 10-month-old baby, and learning a new industry with a toddler was not easy. Not in the least. And in 2006, my son was accepted into Georgetown University, and it was going to be very expensive. Mm-hmm. And the only way I felt the only way for him to achieve his educational aspirations was to become an entrepreneur. So I started ICE, Innovative Commercial Environments, in 2006 from a spare bedroom. So that was kind of the inspiration, was this younger generation and helping them reach their dreams.
That's amazing. I love that. And it's almost the remote workplace back in 2006, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It was quite a different work environment than it is now.
Yes, absolutely. So I know we have a great topic to talk about today, which is cross-generational mentorship. Why don't we start by you telling us and our audience, what exactly does that mean to you? How do you define that?
Well, I love to answer questions like that by telling a story, because I think it's just more relevant when you hear a story. In 2006, as I mentioned, I started the company, but 2008 is when I hired Elise Cooper, and it really was a real company because I had moved out of the spare bedroom in 2008, and I opened up a showroom in 2008. And I paid 100% cash for that new showroom. So I never really took a lot of chances when it came to the finances. So I moved into 2008, hired Elise. She was a full-time college student and a full-time employee when she joined the company. And she was is the daughter of a very good friend of mine who now has been doing the bookkeeping for ICE for 15 years, so almost from the beginning. So Elise was the student, and I started the company with this heart for the younger generation. So it just kind of kept going on. And the only employees that would take a chance working for me were young individuals such as Elise. They did not want to take a chance on a startup. And that actually became our secret sauce. So it started with Elise, and then it just kept going and going, hiring, daughters of friends or coworkers or like my fitness instructor, whatever. And that seems how I found my employees right from the beginning. And Elise purchased the company in 2022.
Okay.
She's now the owner. The company has remained a 100% employee or female ownership, has remained 100% female owned. And that not that we only have female employees, we have a lot of male employees too. But even our male employees tended to be younger, that with less skills. The last, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years now, that model hasn't remained the same, because now we get a lot of very experienced employees looking to join ICE because of the brand, because of our culture of mentorship. They want to grow. They want to feel heard. They want to feel valued. And they know that's what we stand for. That's what ICE stands for. Yeah. So that's kind of how it just evolved. It was just very organic.
And so cross-generational mentorship for you then is just all the different age groups that you have had within your company coming together, depending on even from startup to, when you sold it in 2022, correct?
Correct. And I should not say we anymore. It's really hard to after all these years. But ICE currently has 3 different generations. They have Gen Z, they have millennials, they have Gen X. Actually, they have boomers too. So 4 generations are working there. And that culture of mentorship has remained. And it's not just top down. So leadership to manager to, administrative or whatever the level is. It's really across it's really peer to peer. So you see a lot of let's say a project manager or a new project manager comes in and they mentor each other. They work very closely together to make that new employee feel welcome and engaged. And there's part of the culture of ICE is this not feeling fearful that you're going to fail. That's very important, especially for new employees or people that don't have a lot of experience, is that they need to understand that failure is going to happen. And the more you ask somebody to make decisions on their own, to take a perspective of being an intrapreneur, performing like an entrepreneur when you're working for a company, an intrapreneur, they're going to make mistakes. So don't feel fearful about that. And I remember, I'm going to say it's maybe 2016, 2017, that we had a staff meeting. And one of the things that we did was share, what did you learn this week? And people were very comfortable with sharing their mistakes. And I realized, oh my gosh, this really works, because they're openly talking about their mistakes in a staff meeting, so others don't have to repeat it. There was no shame or fear about making mistakes. And I think that's important with younger people, especially because they, with social media and everything, oftentimes the way they feel about themselves, their self-confidence is low. So you need to build that confidence up, making them feel heard and seen and valued. And I know I use those words a lot, but that's exactly what an intergenerational culture feels like. Everybody's voice is valuable. It doesn't matter if, for me, as a boomer, my tech skills are just terrible. And that actually became a great running joke. It's like, I wasn't embarrassed by it. It is what it is. I have other skills that I bring, and younger generations, like especially Gen Z, they have other skills that they bring that when you mentor, when you have this culture of mentorship, they're going to really bloom. And that's what I saw at ICE.
Yeah. I mean, and I love those ideas of building each other's strengths rather than, we're human. Sorry, people listening. We're all human, including leaders. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have failures. But when we grow from them, we can grow not only ourselves, but then we mentor those around us to also not necessarily make those same mistakes. Or if they make a similar mistake, again, growing from that so we can continue to grow from those things. And I think learning from different generations, like you just said, you're not as tech savvy as maybe those younger generations are. And so there's a great, mentorship, as well as it's okay that I don't know this, and I think as leaders, we have to remember that too, that we don't have to know everything. We have people to help us with that. even as leaders.
Well,
So, yeah.
this is one of the things that was really great about our culture, ICE's culture, is that it was power with, not power over. So that power was very much equally shared. And when you think about this, how stressful is it as a leader? You always have to have the right answers. You always have to know what's going on. That's very stressful. Sharing that power, sharing those decisions, you come up with better decisions. You come up with better ideas. One of the ideas that they came up with was this work from home idea in 2015, which I thought was the craziest thing in the world. I'd never seen that. I didn't immediately embrace it, but as we talked about it, all the leadership group talked about it, like, well, let's try it with this one particular employee who had moved to Arizona. We're in San Diego and she'd moved to Arizona, and it worked out great. And that became our policy, this ability to work remote or work from home. Fast forward to 2020, it was already set up. It wasn't that much of a stretch to go 100% remote. We had the technical skills and the technical tools to make that happen. Of course, we had to learn some new things and everything, but we didn't really miss a beat. And when you look back at how resilient ICE was during COVID, when nobody was coming into the office or buying office furniture, that there were 0 employee layoffs, an 8% revenue growth, and a very high employee engagement in 2020. And that was a result of these leadership policies that we had implemented early on in partnership, in collaboration. So it's an effective way to lead.
Yeah, and I like the collaboration part of it. I mean, I was a leader who, was also listening to what people wanted or had to say or their ideas, because every generation, especially the young ones, want to feel heard. And, we want to be able to share our information as employees and leaders so that we can all be accepted. And so having that connection and mentoring each other and collaborating, I think, are the keys to business success, because we learn about innovations, as you mentioned, creativity comes out. We learn about safety issues that we maybe didn't think of before, psychological or physical, all these things come up. So collaboration, huge, huge, huge. And I appreciate that you bring that mentorship into collaboration with your company. Let me ask you this, because you spoke a little bit about 2020 and some changes around the remote workforce. When you're doing communication, when there's a change, that happens in a company that's already collaborative or, holding mentorship as a key culture piece, what kind of communication changes, if any, did you have to do, or that you saw other companies having to do around that?
It is much harder to create culture if everybody's remote. That's what that's what I've learned. My son's now a data scientist, and he's 100% remote. And he tells me all these interesting ideas of how they are trying to create culture, never having worked together.
Yeah.
And for him, it's interesting. It doesn't always resonate with him. I don't know if it's really working. We haven't really had that conversation, but communication in a 100% remote is really hard, Tara. I don't know how people can do that. Our office remained open, and it was a choice to come in because furniture was considered an essential business. So that was available to people. So there was still some in person, and now, of course, it's mostly in person, though, of course, remote is an option too. So how do you keep that communication? I say just be transparent. Again, going back to share your mistakes, share your failures, being honest, not trying to to project something you're not, that you're all knowing, that you have all the answers. I can't even imagine being a leader like that, how stressful that would be. That would be more than I could possibly have handled. I like sharing ideas, and some great ideas came together, that we have a formal culture, that we created a culture committee.
Awesome.
We had culture warriors, all of that. None of those were my ideas. Those were all the ideas that the millennials were bringing in.
It's amazing. And I think you could absolutely use that if there are any, only remote companies listening, to have some sort of culture, I don't know what it is, committee, or, culture talk once a week with your team members or something. I think that could totally go out to be helping those remote only companies where they're having troubles building culture and mentorship around their teams.
Well, you just gave me a great idea, which I hadn't thought of before. But this year, in retirement, I've served as the co-executive director for a nonprofit called The Cause San Diego. And we hosted the Cause Conference, which we had over 400 attendees. We had 60 national and local social entrepreneurs that just were simply sharing their stories of how they're using their business as a force for good, and it benefits their business and it benefits their community. And the whole point around the Cause Conference and Cause San Diego is doing good in the community, is giving back to the community. So this is an idea for those companies that are 100% remote. Find a cause that you all believe in, not just the leader, not just the one manager, but you vote on that. You find a cause that is important to as many people in the company as possible. And let's say it's cancer awareness, that everybody in the company does something to create cancer awareness in their community. And then they share that experience. It's a shared experience as well as being an individual one, but it's something that the company can rally around. And maybe the company is matching every dollar that the employees bring in. And there's this feeling of, wow, we did something really great for the community, for those that are suffering, families that are suffering from losing a loved one, or individuals that are suffering from cancer, whatever the cause is.
Yeah.
But it's creating social impact. And that's one of the things that younger generations, that really is very meaningful to them.
Absolutely. Yes. They love their social, usually online, but, it's a great way to start to bring some collaboration into organizations that maybe are lacking that, or where, they, in 2020, they went remote and never went back, and they're really losing some of their culture. I mean, that's a wonderful way to bring as many people as you can. As you said, maybe not everybody supports the cause, but the majority of votes maybe, can really bring people together. And a company that also helps by matching or doing their part, brings that feeling of, I'm being heard, I'm being welcomed, this company serves what I believe in. And I think that's fantastic. Love it. I love that.
Well, it was a big part of our culture at ICE was giving back to the community. And every year we served. Every year we did as much as we could for the community. And it was there was a variety of things that we did that it's actually in my book, Inspiring Generational Leadership, Your Guide to Design a Conscious Culture. A lot of the philanthropic efforts that we made are captured in that book. And that giving back was a big part of our brand. You don't do anything for the wrong reasons or to get an award, or doing the right thing is its own reward. And that's why we did it. There's a lot of greenwashing going on out there and that kind of thing, but you have to do it with great integrity and honesty and transparency. and for the right reasons, because you're doing things for the community because it's the right thing to do, not because you want to build this brand, but it does build your brand.
It does. Yes, it does. When you serve, the community and the people that use your product or service, absolutely serves your brand because you're that much more important to them.
Yeah.
You're not just another company. You're the company that did ABC.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. So let me ask you this. Do you have a handful of tips that maybe you can give our listeners if maybe they don't have mentorship right now, or they're not sure how to lead being a mentor, how they can do that and begin to bring that into their companies?
Tara, that's a great question, because a lot of people think that they don't have time to be a mentor. And mentorship can be as easy, as simple as you have a conversation once a quarter with somebody, and you encourage them and they tell you the challenges that they're going through and you offer some suggestions. It can be that simple, or it could be as complex as how I mentored Elise from 2008 to 2022, being involved with everything that she was producing initially, to the point where I didn't have to be involved with anything that she was doing. And I was learning as much from her as she was learning from me. And mentorship is a virtuous circle. You give back as much as you get. And that's the other thing, is people that they don't see the value. It's like, oh, I'm just going to give and give. And what am I going to get for it? And I understand that's how some people think, but I assure you, you will get as much in return as you give. I'm involved with two formal mentorship programs, one through a university program, UCSD, another UC Riverside. And there's the UCSD there. It's a tech group, right? And my tech is terrible. And at first I'm like, I'm not going to be involved with that. I'm going to bring zero value. But I went to the first group meeting, and it was a pitch contest, and my son does pitches all the time. And this weekend we had a Zoom call where this young mentee of mine, he's 19, he's a computer science major, and he did the pitch. My son and his partner, Jack, listened, gave him great information. And I could give him great information about communication, because I'm great at communicating and that kind of thing. And it was I didn't ever think that it would come around full circle like this, that I'm mentoring individuals that I don't even know anything about their major or their industry, but you can still be very valuable to these people.
Oh, I 100% agree. And you brought up like the example of communication. It doesn't matter what industry you're in when it comes to communication, right? I mean, if you aren't communicating well, or you need some tips or help or mentorship around that, then get it. I mean, every industry, you don't have to have a mentor exactly from your industry unless you need mentored specifically on that. But I agree with you. I think that coaches and mentors can be from various different industries. And sometimes having that different set of eyes that doesn't really understand maybe the specifics can actually be a huge benefit to other people, to help them see differently, right? And do things a little differently.
Yes. And you've mentioned communication a few times. I joined Toastmasters around 14 years ago to become a better communicator and a better speaker. And if there's one takeaway that I would encourage people, your listeners, to do, is to consider joining Toastmasters, because it completely changed my life, and it will change your life. There's 14 years ago, there's no way I would have even come on a podcast, quite frankly. It would have been so intimidating to me. Yeah. Not that I'm a great communicator or a great speaker, but I'm a much better communicator because I've been part of Toastmasters.
That's awesome. And I always say there's always room to improve. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. There is always something to improve, even on your strengths, right?
Yes. And hiring coaches.
Yeah.
I wish I had hired a more one-on-one leadership coach when I was starting out. I didn't realize the value of coaches until I started my writing and speaking career. And now I have coaches in both. I'm like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I invest in myself? I don't know why it didn't occur to me, but
Yeah. It's one of those things that we forget about ourselves sometimes. I mean, I've invested in coaches since 2017, either in life or career, depending on what I've been going through. And, it certainly to me has been able to allow me to see those strengths, build on things, build my business. I mean, I'm with you on that, and I'm not just saying that as a coach. I think coaches are a very important role to play as well. I mean, mentors, coaches. I mean, absolutely needed in business as well. And so, yeah, absolutely. So,
yes.
thank you very much for telling us about mentorship, because that is a very key piece missing in a lot of organizations that I think needs to happen more. If our guests wanted to learn more about you or your book, is there a way that they can contact you or find you online?
Yes, my website is DeLindaForsythe.com and my email is DeLinda@DeLindaForsythe.com. And I am absolutely happy to communicate with your listeners. Email me if you want to schedule a Zoom call. I'm happy to do that and give back in retirement. That's what I thoroughly enjoy. And I'd also like to encourage your listeners to download this free chapter 1 of my book, Conscious Capitalism, Millennials in an Evolving Perspective. I think you'll get great insight from that. If you don't have time to read an entire book, there's some great an informative meat in that first chapter that you will
Awesome.
learn from, and how to be a cross-generational leader.
Love it. And thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today and all of those key takeaways. Thank you so much for being here.
You are most welcome. The pleasure was all mine.
Thank you, of course, to our listeners today. We do hope that you're taking away some key tips from DeLinda. Leaders, you do need to continually grow and develop for yourselves and your team. If you would like some support on development, or perhaps would like to join a leadership community, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca, a twin life coaching and business service division. Until next time, please be safe and be an amazing leader for leaders to be.